Okay, great. So we're recording now. So the idea of this process, when I started being asked to go to chapters by myself, generally this is like a very NSA question, but I was asked to come to teach people how to be authentic. To which I was like, what the hell does that even mean? Like, you shouldn't need somebody to teach you how to be authentic. So I really started thinking about it. And for me, like the guardrails of me of when I know that I'm not being true to myself, or when I do know I'm being true to myself, I created kind of this activity. I do this activity at least once a year for my own business. And it's rooted in gratitude, differentiation, contribution, and collaboration. So in about an hour, I want to walk you all through the activity, but you know your own answers. So you're not going to have to share the pieces that you write down with anybody else. You're welcome to share. I'll ask some questions along the way that you're welcome to share your answers. But what I want to do is I want to walk you through the process. There's no real wrong way of doing it. And you can do the activity again. I try to do it every quarter, but I'm far more likely to do it like maybe once a year, maybe twice a year. If I do this again more frequently, it's because I'm either one, about to spend a lot of money on something, and I think it's a very good activity to do before you fall for someone else telling you something's urgent. And number two is if I'm really stressed out and I can't figure out or make up my mind about what I want to do. The idea of being authentic is that you get to do whatever you want to do that's doing you, but that's actually more complicated than it may seem. So hopefully this will help. So are there any questions or anything before we get started on the actual activity itself?
I'm just super glad I'm here. You're exactly at that point of, oh my God, I'm about to spend the most money I ever have and I'm ready to vomit. And I'm like, am I going to do this?
Oh, great. Perfect. Oops, sorry. Okay, great. Okay, so on paper, what I want you to do first is this is like hell on earth for me. Okay, because you can't hear any of the barking, correct? Is that correct? Fantastic. Okay. I'm gonna guess they're gonna be done soon because the stomping is stopping. Okay, focus. On your sheet of paper, what I want you to do is I want you to write a list of people. Now, when you write a list of people, I want you to write one per line because I know what we're doing with the list of people. But who people, I want you to make a list of the good, the bad, the ugly, and the awesome. No particular order. No one's going to see your list. But who are you looking up to? Who's aspirational for you? Who's taught you something? Who do you not want to be like? Because in our profession, we have field goal posts, the people that we really want to be like, and the people, as long as we're not like them, we're nailing it. So you need some bad people, whatever bad means to you, but less than desirable for you people. But anybody that's just kind of up in your head or your world right now, people that are maybe specifically related to your speaking business, and the lens that we're focusing on today is the NSA part of your life, right? But you may have other people that are occupying space in your brain. Maybe they're coworkers, children, maybe you married them, neighbors. Currently, the roofers are occupying my brain. So I want you to make a list of people that you are holding in your head, and you want to make sure that you have positive, negative people in the list. No particular order. You need to know who they are, and then we're going to play with that list. So when you have about 10 people or so on the list, look up, make eye contact with me so that I know that that's the case, and then we'll move on to the next step. I am going to hit mute because I think they're actually leaving. So I'm going to go to the front of the house and I'll be right back. Okay, but you need at least 10. If you have 15, you can like get a snack after that. Okay.
Hey, Jess, I have a question for you.
Sure thing. How can I help?
When you say in your life, like, I have to know them personally or no?
So that I knew I'm waiting for a follow-up question. So in your life is your definition. If you
Okay.
need follow-up, it's probably easier if they're alive, right? So that would be my one thing, but in your life that you're carrying around with you is your definition. So if you
I
want
don't
to,
have to know them like buddies or anything like that.
no,
Okay.
if you're carrying them around with you, you might as
I'm
well
carrying
know.
them around.
Yeah. So
Okay.
some people put like Oprah and John Maxwell and those kind of people
Okay,
on.
you just gave it to me.
Um,
That's cool.
Yeah, to me, that's like, uh, well, you'll just see. You just put
Okay,
anybody
cool.
you
I'm
want to.
putting him. I'm putting him.
Great. Does anybody else have follow-ups? Yes,
These
Elaine.
are supposed to be speakers or anybody?
People in your head. Hello, overthinkers. How are you doing?
I've
People that you are carrying around. That's it. Go ahead, Elaine.
got it. No, I was kind of chuckling because I think I aspire to some things that this person has and some things I don't aspire to. So just an observation.
Yeah, we're getting there. Don't matter if they are a person in your head, write them down. I think it's easier if they're alive, but you can do the activity with dead people. Just notice you got dead people in your head. Come on. I know, they're not done yet. They said they were gonna be done, they lied. Come on. Okay. Can you hear the leaf blowers, just out of curiosity? I'm assuming leaf blowers mean they're almost done, but they're not done yet. Okay, so 10-ish people. Anybody an overachiever and have more than 10? Everybody's an overachiever. I see you, I see you. Okay, so I'm gonna assume you got 10-ish people. Now I want you to look at your list, okay? There are billions of people on the planet. Out of all the people on the planet, you have picked this list to play with. While we are playing, it is possible that you are going to come up with more people. That is great. Just deal with the people that you list. Okay, you can repeat the activity with different people later. So with the list that you have, unless they're burning a hole in your pocket, then just write their name down on the list because this is a conversation you're having with yourself. So I want you to look at your list. Some of the people on the list, not all of them, but some of them are like the best, the goodest, greatest, best people on that list. And I want you to draw a circle around them. It cannot be everyone on your list. Elaine made a point about like, what about this? And I kind of like this, I kind of don't like this. Like, don't get complicated. Out of all of the people on planet Earth, you have narrowed it down to this list. And out of this list, I want you to pick who are the bestest of the bestest of that list and draw a circle around their name. Okay, do you have at least 3 circles? 3 circles? Okay, now what I want you to do next to your circle people is I want you to have a conversation with yourself. What is it about all the people on the entire planet you have narrowed down to these circles? Why? What did they teach you? What did you learn from them? What do they role model? I have no idea what the right words are, but of all the people on the planet, what is it about this person that makes them a circle person to you? And I want you to write down that information, those bullets, sentences, whatever you need to the right of their name.
Jess, can you say again what we're writing?
Absolutely. And again, sorry about all the distractions. I really do think they're almost done with the stupid roof. So your circle people, why of all the people on the planet did they become a circle person? So usually they've taught you something, you've learned something from them, they're a role model of some sort, but you're gonna just write notes to yourself
Okay.
about how of all the people on the planet, they have become a circle person to you.
Okay.
What are we doing? Are we good with circle people? Bless you.
Thank you.
Good. Dan, how are you doing on circles?
I'm good to go.
Cool. So this is the part, well, that's not true. There's lots of parts where you're going to be like, oh, shit. But this is one of the parts where you're going to go, "Ah, shit." So I give you 7 days to make contact with this circle person and tell them why they have become a circle person. The rules are you are not allowed to email them or text them. You can write them a handwritten note, or you could call them or see them in person. Now, let me explain why. Number one, no matter how cool or busy somebody is, there is always time to receive a compliment. If you can think back to your own audiences or students or something, somebody's come up to you who you have zero memory of, and they have told you that you like saved their life, or you were exactly what they needed today, right? I am not the only person this has happened to. And you're like, choose better. I'm a disaster. What are you talking about? Because you're like at the grocery store or something, like it's totally out of context. There is always time and space to receive a compliment. And I believe the first step of really being authentically you is giving gratitude. A lot of times we look at being authentic as something that comes to us, but it starts by us going out. So I want you to look at your circle people, and I want you to make contact with them and tell them how out of all the people on the planet they became a circle person. Usually someone says, but what am I supposed to say? Well, conveniently, you have left notes for yourself. So now you know exactly what it is that you're going to say because you wrote down why they became a circle person, right? So I double dog dare you to try to do this in the next 7 days. So before we move on to the next part, would anybody like to explain to me why this is impossible and they don't want to do this?
I'm not going to say it's impossible. I don't have some of these people's numbers or where to write to them.
The internet happened. Great.
Sorry?
Internet?
Sorry?
Internet?
I thought you said no emailing them.
You can look it up and find their mailing address, a contact form. If you would like permission to email them, that's fine, but I don't want that to be your first go-to. I want it to be something better than just sending an email. I want you to do a handwritten note. If they're dead and you didn't follow directions, you can write notes to dead people. This is a significant part of my therapy, and I just saved you a copay. But I want you to give them gratitude because out of all the people in the world, they became one of your circle people. Susan, does that help? If you
I just
want,
have to find them. It's the logistics. That's all.
right, but
I can totally do that. I'm happy to, I want to gush to them, but yeah, And one of them is somebody you help connect me with. Wink, wink, nug, nug.
Well, that person's really easy to find because their address.
I know.
If you can't find it, ask somebody who can, right? And if you really can't, ask your niece. Your niece will find anybody on the internet anywhere.
It'd be super if I had a niece, but okay.
Right, but my
I know. That's okay. I'll take care of the logistics. It's
But
cool. I'll make it happen.
I'm really actually trying to make a point though, is I want you to like feel in your body what it feels like. All I asked you was, of all the people on the planet that you chose to circle, can you please go tell them good things about them? And what
Yep.
tends to happen, and Susan, I'm not poking on you, everybody probably went through some range of this, is that we're like, no, I can't do that. Why? There is always time to be complimented. There is no one on the face of the planet that is not findable in at least an energetic way, right? Like you could just go stand in your backyard and scream at the world at how great this person is, and that would be doing this task. But I want you to start at gratitude. I find it fascinating, especially in this industry, how terrifying it is, including me. I'm not immune to this, to just be able to like say something positive, right? So Meredith, you put in the chat that you circled 8 people. So how many people were on your list to come up with?
A lot. I did like 19 instead of 10.
Great. So you did
Great.
20. So about half of them were circles. So
Yeah.
then you get to decide if you want to do like, is there a double circle? If you need to narrow it down or something, right? Like this isn't about overachieving. You're not turning anything into me. If you want to tell 8 people they're awesome, that also does not break anything, right?
Mine's the opposite,
Okay.
I think, in some ways, because I circled people I talk to all the time.
That's wonderful. Have you told them what it is about them that you are grateful for?
I like the idea of being this direct and thoughtful about it, but there's a part of me that feels like maybe I could play a little bigger and circle like 1 or 2 other people that I don't know, I don't talk to, but I had on this list. So I'm just throwing that out.
Sure.
I'm assuming it really doesn't matter, I think, at the end of the day.
Not
Yeah.
at all. And Angel, who's in your chapter's academy, couldn't come tonight. So I invited him yesterday to the NSA Central Florida chapter. And for them, we did this activity right as the chapter meeting. And then we have followed up with each other after the first quarter of this year to do it again. So then they have lists to compare to each other about how it's changed, how it's not changed. Some of people lost the list entirely, but other people are comparing them. So I'm just going to invite you to like, no one is going to win or lose this activity. You just did what you did, which is great. So can you, in the next 7 days, increase the amount of gratitude in your life? What is incredible to me is almost all of you will not even come close to starting this. Every time I do this activity, people are like, oh, do it. Okay. Go do it then. But they end up not doing it. And especially, Dan, when there are people that you see regularly, sometimes that's even more awkward than like writing a postcard to Oprah Winfrey about how she changed your life. But to tell like your brother how they changed your life, or like what you've learned from them, or why you're grateful for them, it's a challenging conversation. But it's just step 1. It's getting ready to get harder. So Elaine, go for you.
I was going to say, I'm actually excited about doing this, but I love getting cards like this. So maybe connect into that, everyone, just how you would feel. You're cutting out when you start getting excited and getting more. So I think your mic is set to cut out the high stuff. So just wanted to let you know that.
It's still nuclear Armageddon in the house. So
Okay,
that's
no problem.
also a thing. Yeah. You can hear a drill. So maybe that will get better. So sorry. Okay. Meredith, are you good with your 8 circle people? Are you going to do a
I
double?
will reach out.
Or are you going to give gratitude to 8 people?
Just gonna give credit. I love giving the love. I call it sharing the love. So I'm into it. I don't think I do it enough, but I am a big fan.
I see you, none of us do this enough. So, okay, Amani, how are you doing? Thumbs up. Great. Susan, how are you doing? Okay, so now looking from the list that are not circled. Okay, so once they're circled, we are now done with them. They are not part of the activity. Just move them from your brain. So the people on your list who are not circled, some of them, not all of them, but some of them are the other field goal post. So they're the bad, ugly, not so awesome people. So what I want you to do is draw a single line through their name. You still need to be able to read their name. If you tear the paper, you might need a therapy appointment. But just draw a single line through your bad people, whatever bad means to you, but the opposite of a circle person. Draw a single line through their name, at least a couple of them.
I mean, they have to be bad, like,
Susan, I love you. You're overthinking it. I have no idea who's on your list. These
I
are
know.
the opposite of circles.
I don't think I played hard enough on that side.
Way to judge yourself as well. So you can add more names.
I don't know anything about judging myself. What are you talking about?
You can either add more names or draw
Okay.
lines through the people who are on your list that are on the lower end of the spectrum if the circles are at the highest end.
Got
Okay.
it.
And I'm not mad at y'all. It's just really loud in my house. So. Okay, how are we doing? Do we have a couple of lines? Dan, just out of curiosity, are these also people you know in your life, or did you actually go a little bit out of your circles for this one?
One I know and one I don't know.
Okay, great. Meredith, do you have 8 line people as well? Because that would leave you one person who's nothing.
I have a state, I really 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. Yeah, I got a lot of lines.
Dan, your expression was perfect.
Okay, so because I am living in an auditory hell zone right now, do you have people on your list who are not circles and not lines, Meredith? I couldn't hear your answer.
Oh, yeah. I mean, was I supposed to cross them off? If they're not a circle, are they crossed off?
No, there will be 3 categories of people: circles,
Oh.
lines, and nothing like.
Yikes, I just
neither.
crossed everybody off. Now I have to double cross or something to, okay.
We've talked about your circle people. We're going to talk about the line people in just a second. So I did explicitly say not everyone else on the list, but just the worst of the worst and the best of the best circles and lines. So then you have people in the middle. So before we get to the line people, and Meredith, this may be harder for you because it sounds like you've kind of fucked up your list. So that's fine. And no one is dead except for possibly minor. Okay, so of the people who are on your list who are not double circles or double lines, Meredith, or circles and lines for the rest of the people, you should have people on your list who are floating in the middle. Yes? Great. What I want you to do is I want you to look at the people who are floating in the middle. I want you to give them your attention, because those people are not giving to you or taking from you other than space, time, and focus. Now, for some people, I don't have children, so that children almost always come up first, or parents that you have to take care of. There's like obligation people in your life. So if you are responsible, you have obligations, you can't do anything necessarily about that. But I do think it's important for you to give those people some space in your life right now, that they are taking up brain space, they're taking up energy space, but they're not circle people, but they're also not line people. They're just floating in the middle people. Okay. So just take a second and acknowledge, if you have floating in the middle people, what is their connection to you? How much time and energy are they taking from you? Is that an okay thing? Is that a great thing? Is that a not so okay thing? But just sit with what that is, because those obligations are also a very big part of who you are. And I think a lot of times in business, we pretend that everything is a circle or a line, and we're really complicated. We're holding a lot of things at once, right? Like literally, I'm trying to do a free webinar for people that I deeply care about in a chapter of an organization I deeply care about, while getting my roof repaired, while my husband's out of town, while my dogs are working out because I'm chopped liver and dad hasn't been here for 4 days, right? Like, it's complicated. Our lives are complicated. And I think it's better to sit in that acknowledgement than pretend it's not true. Okay. So just looking at your non-circle, your non-line people, you don't have to share who they are or what their connection is, but what does that feel like for you to be in the non-circle, non-line part of your brain focus and space? How are you feeling about those folks? You can say it out loud if you're interested.
What if some of them are like people who you might want to try to develop into circle people?
Yeah, great. I'm just asking you to think about them in general, right? So maybe, Amani, what you're feeling is that they are, there's potential in those people. Great, perfect. What else?
I have a person that I know is a good person, but she's always trying to sell me something or get a referral, or I feel like there's a taker energy there that's not like my favorite thing about this person, but not a bad person. Again, like a decent soul, just like a eternal salesperson, if that makes sense. Always, that's her shtick. But I know she's a good person. So maybe I don't, so something to think about.
And Elaine, I think you brought up somebody like that too. So I kind of call these like the conflicted people. So ultimately, if you're conflicted about someone, you eventually will be at a place where you might be able to make a choice. And are you going to keep them occupying space, or do they become a circle? Do they become a line person? Or do they just no longer occupy space? They don't have to be a circle or a line people. Circle and line people are occupying space. So when you do the activity over and over again, the floaters, as I like to call them in the middle, some of them change each time you do it, and some of them stay exactly the same. My brother, is a great example, has been a floater for the last 48 years of my life. There's nothing I can do about it. I haven't talked to him in the last 6 years because I'm a microchipped pedophile now, evidently, but he's still occupying parts of my brain. He's still in my head, whether he knows it or not. And we don't even hardly talk to each other, but he's still in there, right? So that might be consistent every single time I do this activity, but there are other people who can ebb and flow. Your circles may change, your lines may change, but I just want you to look at your floaters and see what kind of space and focus are they taking up? A lot, a little bit? How does it feel? Susan.
Can I just ask, I was having audio trouble. I finally got my AirPods to pair, and I've got noise in the background too. Did you ask us to do something specific next to each one of these floaters? No. Okay.
Nope. I just literally asked you to look at them and see how you feel about looking at them.
Done.
Okay. Because they are part of your brain space and your focus. And pretending they're not, I think, is cheating yourself. I mean, if we could get
I'm always
complicated.
like, should I invite that floater for when I see another friend, when I really don't think they're my favorite person to be there, but they're not bad energy to be around. But I know they're going to try and sell me something.
I don't
Yeah.
know. It's a question for you to answer.
But
And
that's what I'm thinking. Yeah.
yeah, and my guess is, Meredith, there may be times where that person is exactly what you do not need in the mix. And there may be times where that person's totally fine to be in the mix because like you have the brain space to like shield off whatever they're going to try and sell you.
Well,
Right.
and it's an ongoing joke. Like you can give me the sample, but I'm not going to use it.
Right.
That's usually how we.
I don't want to get into the specifics because I don't care, but like,
Yeah, I'm
this is
sorry. Yeah.
it occupies your space, right? So then,
Well, yeah, because that's right. I create unnecessary energy before I see her to prepare myself to say, I know she's going to tell me something and I'm going to say,
great. Of all 6 billion people on the planet, that person made your list. That's telling of something. I don't know what it's telling, but it's telling of something. Good. Any other, Elaine, do you have any thoughts about your floater people?
I'm finding this very interesting so far. Thanks.
Well, great. Amani, what about you?
I can relate to your brother example. My brother's on my list too, and he's floating, so I can 100% relate to that. So that was a good one. And there's a couple others that I think could turn into circle people. So I'm happy about that too.
Great. Dan, what about you?
I'm good.
You're good. Okay. Susan, we good to move forward? Okay, so you have your circle people. Your job is to give them gratitude. Most of you will not do that. Then you created your line people, but before we do anything with them, you're looking at your floaters, and there's a lot of complications that exist inside your floaters. Great. That is totally information for you to figure out what you're going to do with that information. But at least now you know, wow, there's a lot of shit going on in the floater land, right? So now I want you to put the floaters aside and we're just going to look at your line people, okay? Now, next, we're going to dispel grammar for just a second. So next to your line people, what I want you to write down, there's 2 questions that you're going to kind of answer next to your line people. Let me give you the directions. You're going to ask clarifying questions. I'm going to repeat the directions. You're going to ask clarifying questions. I'm going to tell you I'm not giving you the directions again. And then you're going to do it. Okay. So the directions are, I want you to look at your line people and I want you to determine what do you do that they do not do and what don't you do that they do do. So what?
Can you repeat that?
See, that's question number 1. Okay.
Slowly, por favor, slowly.
I'm just kidding.
Oh, no, it's good. It just wait, it'll happen again. Okay. What do you do that they do not do? And what don't you do that they do do? So now let me give you an example. So my like nemesis when I started speaking. So customers would often confuse us and I would have a visceral hive breakout of like, do not compare me to this person, right? They are definitely a line person in my world. So one of the things they don't do is they are like above moving tables and chairs. So like if the room isn't set up right, they'll stand off to the side and bitch about it. I am not above moving tables and chairs. And frankly, then I know the room is set up right. But my accessibility is something I do. And her untouchability is something that's important to her, right? Is that she flies in and does her training. She doesn't do anything else. I really like to be more accessible than that. So that's something I do. She has a PhD. I do not have a PhD. So if she was one of my line people, I would write down, I do move tables and chairs and I don't have a PhD. Okay. So looking at your line people, I want you to write down what you do that they don't do and what don't you do that they do. I'm going to mute. Are there any questions? Because I believe Armageddon is over and I'm going to let the dogs out to go to the bathroom because they just worked up quite a frenzy. Any questions before I step away? What do you do that they don't do? What don't you do that they do? Okay, I'm hitting mute. I'll be right back. Okay, how are we doing? What do you do and what don't you do? We're doing good?
One of my guys that got the line through it, I know for a fact that I'm very jealous of him. And so I project a fair amount onto him. So I honestly don't know if he does any of the stuff I think he does.
Great.
So
this-
I'm not writing a whole lot because I think it's mostly just smoke and mirrors. And I'm just kind of assuming I really don't know him because I don't. And it's just all kind of jealousy and projection.
but that's like a wonderful thing to either remind yourself of or notice if you hadn't noticed beforehand, right?
Yeah, no, it's reminding myself. I'm very aware.
Perfect. Not everybody has done as much self-work as you've done. So, okay. So now, assuming you have made notes of the doings and the don'ts, I'm going to ask each of you to say a sentence out loud. You are all going to fuck this up. So I'm going to try again. Okay. So what I want you to do is I'm going to ask you to make a declarative statement where you say, I do this. Right? Like just something that you do that's a declarative statement about the work that you do. I don't want you to reference them. I don't want you to get defensive or jealous. I don't want you to mention like, I don't even do anything. I don't, none of that. Just a declarative statement about what you do that's rooted in the differentiation between these line people. But you're not going to share that because this is semi-confidential-ish, so we don't need to know who your line people are. So as an example, I'm going to say, I do use humor in an accessible manner so that I can invite people to have very difficult conversations. That is what I do. That is my declarative statement. So look at your things. If you need to write it out, that's fine. But I want you to share out loud a declarative statement about what you do. You're getting your money's worth. Whenever you're ready, just unmute and say your declarative statement.
I do change lives by being shockingly vulnerable, open, and honest, even when it's not easy.
What was the last part? Even when you what?
Even when it's not easy.
Got it. Great.
I do look out for people and show them empathy and appreciation.
Excellent.
I do combine speaking and a DJ set into a unique experience while collaborating with other professionals.
Excellent. And foreshadowing for what's coming. Good job.
Thank you.
Dan or Elaine, you got a declarative statement?
Mine's very similar to yours, Jess. I'm just copying everything you do. I use,
Being jealousy. This is all self-awareness.
yeah, it was you that it was. I use humor and vulnerable sharing to talk about and even help people see what they don't want to see.
Great. And for the record, obviously, Dan, you and I are joking with each other, but you can have the same declarative statement as someone. There are a lot of ballrooms in the world.
Yeah.
So it doesn't have to be like your totally unique starfish Haley's Comet statement. It's just, what do you do, right? Elaine, do you have one?
I'm finding this hard.
Well, good. The rest of it was really hard for other people.
So what I do that they don't do and what I don't do that they do.
And then your declarative statement is just something that you do.
Okay, I create a caring space for people to try improv and learn more about themselves. Okay, cool.
Yeah, you all did a great job because I told you you would fuck it up because that's how this works, right? So good job. So you have now made a declarative statement. So if the front part of the activity is about gratitude, this statement is about differentiation. And if you can figure out what other people do, and that's fine, and you can figure out what you do, and that's fine, then you're a little clearer about what you have in common and what you have that is different in style or approach or offerings or credentials or whatever. Differentiation. Okay, now the hard part. What I want you to do is to look at your line people, but I want you to think about two different concepts. And for funsies, your circle people can show back up in this. I want you to think about two concepts, contribution and collaboration. So contribution in my mind means supporting something that already exists. Collaboration, so Amani was doing foreshadowing, collaboration means creating something that does not currently exist together. That's how I'm using the terms. So I want you to think about even something as small as a LinkedIn recommendation. Is there some way you can contribute to these people, including your line people? Is there something that you could do to contribute that would feel right for you? Can you be a guest on their podcast? Can that you invite them to be a guest in your podcast? Can you share posts on social media? Is there something that you can do to support them and their efforts, or they could do to support you and your efforts that already exist? So collaboration is creating something entirely new and different together. So I'm going to give you an example. When I was leaving education and moving into the corporate world, everybody kept recommending this one particular speaker to me. So I went to their website and it was pretty outdated, and they had just published a book. And this is like 2015. They had just published a book, and the book talked about CD-ROMs and the World Wide Web. And I was just like, hello, 1984 wants its diversity training back. What the fuck? Now, in retrospect, I should have been able to pick up that education is actually fast and progressive compared to like a bank. But I didn't know that because I'd never done any corporate work. So I'm looking at this person's stuff like it's super outdated and not tracking that this book was just published because this is what their buyers are at. I missed an opportunity to get ahead of my own ego to understand what corporate people needed because I just judged them as an idiot. So even when you're talking about contributing and collaborating, and Dan, you kind of mentioned this too, there is a possibility that you are the reason they are a line person, not them. Is also a possibility that they are a schmuck. But you need to be open to the possibility that there is something you could do to contribute or collaborate with them for no other reason than this little activity space. You're being creative. You're trying to get reconnected to your authentic self. And your authentic self might say, nah, hard pass. Okay. But now you know that it's doing that. Are you following me? So if we go to this particular person, I really thought they were very, 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 very outdated. And so I came up with the idea of, I reached out to them and to see if they wanted to do a series of video podcasty kind of things where we talk about one issue and they do their approach and I do my approach, which would have been probably wildly different. Wouldn't that be an interesting podcast? So I pitched it. It never went anywhere. Nothing ever happened. They don't even talk to me anymore. But they're less of a line person to me now. And I'm not carrying them. I'm not carrying that around with me anymore because I actually got to a place where I could have contributed or we could have collaborated and created something new. Make sense? Okay. So then what I want you to do is to think about, of your offerings and your resources, what could you do that would have them contributing to you? What could you invite them to contribute to? Or how could you contribute to them? Or could you create something brand new with them? And just because some of you are going to be like, this is impossible, they are a line person, I just want to invite you, you can ask the same questions about your circle people. And if that gets you flowing and going, then it's a possibility you might find some contributions or collaboration ideas for your line people, but you're not playing with the floaters in the middle. Okay. So what I want you to do is spend some time thinking about that. And you should probably mute your keyboard because I'm going to let Jacob in and catch him somehow up to date now that we are almost done. Okay. So I'm getting ready to let him in and then I'm going to talk to him. Y'all mute and then I'll wave my hands around or something when we're done talking. Okay. Okay, here comes Jacob. Jacob, I think your audio is, there you go. Here's your audio. Can I hear you?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Perfect. Yes. So I asked the other folks, they in theory have muted their keyboard, but we're doing this interactive activity and we are dangerously close to being done with it, but I recorded the whole session.
Oh, thank you.
100%.
Oh,
yeah, you're totally good. So you
good.
are
Okay.
welcome. Go outside and go for a walk and I'll give you the recording. Or you can hang in there as we're almost done, but I just wanted to make sure I'm not going to back up and start the whole activity over.
I get it. Yeah, I understand.
But the recording is great. And then you and I can always follow up. Plus I need to follow up with you about a testimonial idea.
Oh,
So,
wow. Okay, great.
How would you like to proceed? Do you want to just kind of listen in or do you want to like bolt to go do something else and then get the recording?
Can I listen in?
Yeah, totally.
Okay, I'll mute myself and yeah.
Well, I mean, you're welcome to talk as well. I just didn't want it to be super awkward that we're at like step 10 of 11 and you be like, what is happening? So coolio, thumbs up. Great. Okay, everybody else, I want to check in and see if you're coming up with contributions and collaborations. Hard at work. Perfect. So while you're dreaming up things, Jacob, just so you know, and I'm going to kind of review it for everyone and for the recording. The idea of this process was to, I call it the authenticity chiropractor. And I think that there's a lot of times in this business where we can lose sight of who we really are because we could throw money at something and somebody told us we could be somebody else. And you are welcome to do that, but it gets exhausting and tiring and it's really expensive. So if you can just be yourself, then it's less exhausting. I'm not saying it's less expensive, but it's less exhausting. So how do you kind of recalibrate when you might be kind of losing track of who you are or why you started doing this? So the idea of really articulating who are these comparables, these people in your life, who's taking up space in your brain, who are you aspirationally comparing yourself to, and who are you like, as long as I'm not them, comparing yourself to. But those are your field posts, right? So I don't think I've told this story in this group, but I usually tell the story of my uncle and my father. Have I told y'all this story yet? So my uncle and my father, they're brothers, obviously. And my uncle, I did all of his invoicing for his siding company over the summers. So just to really lean into stereotypes, he was like a totally unethical business person. So he would underbid siding jobs for houses because they had like a boat for sale or a car for sale in the yard, get really close to finishing it, and then like surprise them with a fake termite infestation or something, but then tell them that if they throw in the boat or the car, he'll finish the deal. But he would do this on purpose because he would then sell the boat and the car for his own personal gain. And I had to do all the accounting work for this. So he will forever be a line person because I make business choices all the time. And I'm always like, what would Eddie do? And if Eddie would do this, I'm out. Like, it doesn't even matter if it might not be that bad. If Eddie has been deployed, it's not occurring. I will not do it if Eddie would do it. But the flip side, I have another goalpost. It's my father. My father was a serial entrepreneur, and he was the exact opposite. So he would often lose profits for the idea of this like long-term relationship with a client, and eventually would be taken advantage of by his clients all the time. So I had to do his paperwork over the summer as well. And like, that's where I learned how to play the coconut game and like try to get all the bills paid and stuff, because somebody had chemotherapy and they weren't able to pay their bills. So he would just eat the cost of the bills whilst like he was too nice. So if my dad would do it, I also will say no. But they're different reasons that I would say no, but it helps me know when to say yes. And it wasn't until I was really able to articulate who my kind of circle people and line people are. My dad is a circle person because he's ethical and had really good integrity. He also just had terrible business sense. But he's the most ethical person I've ever met in my entire life. That's a circle person. My uncle, his brother, clearly my dad got all of the scoops of ethics. But he was a very savvy business person. But as a solopreneur, I don't want to be an unethical, savvy business person. I want to be an ethical person who does okay at business. I'm okay with that. So that's kind of how I identify my goalposts of who I want to be. And sometimes I can get really distracted because I'm being told I have to do stuff. Even with the mastermind group, there are times where Tom or Jerry or Liz have been like, no, don't do this. And we have done it anyway. There are times where they've been like, no, you have to do this. And it doesn't feel right. And I don't do it. Ultimately, it's my business. I get to pick and choose whatever it is I'm going to do. But if I feel like I've gone astray, then I need to remind myself, what are those things? So how to remind myself, I think you start with gratitude. So when you identify something you are grateful for, it is fascinating to me how many excuses we will come up with to not share gratitude. So that's step one. Step two is then to remind yourself of the differentiation between you and other people. Perhaps the other people are in the same topic or the same price range, or buyers think you're doing the same thing, even though you may not be. You lose something to this person, you take something from this person. Who are these comparables? And if you're clear on your differentiation, then just keep riding that pony, because that's your differentiation, right? So you kind of remind yourself of that and recalibrate to it. And then you can be creative. And when you can get to being creative, that's when, in my opinion, contribution and collaboration can actually sprout and take root, and new things can happen. You don't actually have to do them, but from a differentiated place of gratitude and creativity, you can now make a decision about what it is you're doing in your life. So I want to open it up to folks who've gone through the activity. Dan, I see that you switched to your phone, and that's totally cool while you're driving. But I want to see if there's any thoughts or comments or anything you want to add. Susan, go first. How can I help?
I don't know that I need help. I saw this huge aha. I've switched up my work seriously in the last 2 weeks because I had an enormous insight in my own life. I'm like, why do I work with women all the time about their leadership? And I saw in my own life about shame, where I've been carrying shame, and how shame makes people powerless. And I realized that this is a phenomenal exercise for bringing back our own power, because we give it away to our line people. We give it away to our floaters, and we can take it back. I love the idea of reclaiming it with gratitude first for the people who are like, you inspire me, you keep me going, your idea, right? Also remembering our differentiation, what makes us unique, what's really authentic is a place of stepping into power. And then it's really powerful to work with the right people on contribution, collaboration. One of my line people is my sister-in-law, and there's not really a need for me to, I mean, I can give her nice earrings for her birthday, and that's about, yeah. She really, really wronged me in a very, very public and not cool way. And I don't feel trust with her. But this whole idea gives me this piece about, I can see you, if you don't mind, I'm happy to attribute, but this is a phenomenal exercise in not just as for speakers, but for anybody who wants to feel more powerful in them, regain their own personal power, right? How do you stand in the world as yourself? I think this is phenomenal.
Oh, well, thanks.
Sending you big gratitude.
Thank you. I will accept it and take it. Yeah. Sometimes just doing the simplest things is like a huge lift, right? But all, like, not to sound like Dorothy, but all the answers were in you all along. We just need to like squeegee off all these distractions to remember why we're doing what we're doing. Right? So other thoughts or comments or ideas? Go, Eileen. Or I'm sorry, Elaine. I keep saying Eileen. I'm sorry.
Oh, no problem. So we can do it with the circle people as well. You recommend. And okay, that's interesting. All right.
Like what? So here, it's like the audacity of asking, right? Like the worst thing that's going to happen is they're going to say no.
Mhm.
The second worst thing is that you never hear back from them. Well, how are either of those different than right now?
Mhm.
Right? But if you have like a monthly newsletter, how many times have you been like, shit, I gotta write what am I gonna write about this month? I don't know what I'm gonna write. Like, can you share something that someone else has included in their newsletter, right? If I don't really play the social media LinkedIn game, but during the golden hour when people are making conversational posts now to look like they're having organic conversations, to me, that feels disgusting. that like the same 8 people are constantly commenting on your things because you have some agreement that you're all gonna like fake converse about the thing that you put. This seems dumb, but whatever. It's what's happening right now. So of your circle people, can you like actually converse with them
Mhm.
instead of fake agreement converse on their LinkedIn page, right? Can you do that? Can you invite them to do something on your page? Right. I'm just going to use this as an example, but when this is back in my college days, when I was speaking primarily to colleges, but a student came up to me and he's a great guy. And I had worked with him in a leadership camp, and his father had committed suicide the summer before, and he found his father and was not doing well, I think is a safe way of saying that.
Mhm.
So he came up to me after doing a keynote at a different kind of training, and he just was like, Jess, I'm really not doing good. I'm really not doing good. He's like, the only thing I have found that has even given me like a glimmer of hope is I started reading Brene Brown's Daring Greatly, and I'm just rereading it and rereading it and rereading it and rereading it. And that's kind of the only thing that's keeping me here. And I was like, well, first off, you know, good on you for noticing what it is that you need. Thank you for reaching out for help. So, you know, that was Fred. His name is Fred. So then I just decided, what do I have to lose? So I emailed Brene Brown. And of course, I'm not going to get Brene Brown. I'm going to get some handler or something, right? But in the email, Susan, in the email, I said, hi, I'd like to talk to someone because I have a predicament that I think y'all would want to know about the impact that your book has had.
Mhm.
So Brene did not call me. Somebody called me and was like, hi, I'm, you know, blah, 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 whatever, assistant. What's going on? And this is probably 10 years ago now. So she wasn't like quite Oprah status, but like she still, her TED Talk still had millions of views or whatever. So I told him the story of Fred. And Brene Brown's people probably put together a package with signed books and bookmarks and t-shirts and things like that, and asked me to send it to Fred. Right? Like, imagine someone does that to you. Wouldn't you figure out a way to like put a package together or something? Right? Like, even if you're in a hurry, you'd be like, well, I have this unopened bag of Fritos. Let's throw them in the bag. Right? Like, you would figure out something. But just because they're your circle people doesn't mean that they're not a human being anymore. Is it possible I would have never heard back? Absolutely. But I wouldn't have gotten anything if I hadn't reached out. And who doesn't want to know that your book is on repeat to keep some teenager sane because they discovered their father after he killed himself? I don't think that Brene Brown had that in mind when she wrote the book. But what your book ends up doing isn't what you had in mind. Right? So restoring humanity to your circle people will actually build up the muscles to restore humanity to your line people. And if you don't want to do that, then worst case scenarios, you'll start returning humanity to yourself. Whoa, that's scary. Back to the line people. Let's give them some humanity. Right? But that's the real authentic work that we're all trying to do. So Dan, you unmuted. Did you want to say something?
I did. Well, that was beautiful. That's powerful. And Brene Brown, probably I'm not the only one, but Brene Brown's one of my circle people, and the only one of my circle people I don't know. So I love that story. But just knowing you a little bit, Jess, I thought I would share just a slight language piece with you. Maybe you know this and you just forgot or whatever, but you said that he committed suicide, and the language these days that people are asking us to use is died by suicide.
That is
And so
congratulations. Thank you.
I thought I would just share that.
No, I really
Yeah.
appreciate that. Yeah. It's funny, as language evolves, you have to like update the transcripts of what happened, right? So first off, thank you for the nudge. And like, I have such a visceral memory of Fred like stumbling through the sentence that it took him a very long time to say the syllables of committed, right? And so I knew exactly what was coming because of what happened with that word, but you're correct. We don't say that word anymore. So,
Oh, and I wouldn't, yeah, if it was a direct quote, I apologize. I thought you were saying it. I didn't realize Fred, you were recounting Fred saying it.
Oh,
I mean, if that's what he said.
that's what he said. But either way, I'm telling the story now, right? So it's just like
Yeah,
when people change their pronouns, like you don't get an automatic card to use old pronouns or an old name because the story is old. You're telling it
true.
now, which makes it awkward when, like, you know, I'm making out with my best friend in the women's bathroom and they're like, what was he doing in the bathroom? And I'm like, well, that's common. Right. Anyway, what else? Any other thoughts or comments? Meredith.
I wanted to, can you hear me okay? It is kind of echoing loud. Okay. I just wanted to say to you, Jess, you're one of my new circles. I've been thinking about you since I first saw you speak. So appreciated coming in before. And so I just wanted to take my moment to say on my list, I had you as caring, kind, good soul, fucking hilarious, generous, and everything I've seen and know about you is not just good or great, but amazing speaker and inspiring, like super inspiring, because I think like there are a lot of people out there who are accelerating their career and they're not sharing and have a lovely setup mastermind and are like, I'm good luck. Like, hey, I have 2 seconds for you. And you've been so generous. And also my favorite thing about you, if I may say very quickly, just not to be a time hog, is that I think in a world where I live in LA, for example, there's so much superficiality and fronts. And as a former TV anchor who lived in that unfortunate world where we were told to put up a shield, it's so inspiring to see somebody not only owning who they are, but sharing and empowering others to do so. So that's my biggest takeaway, and thank you for today. And you've also inspired me, like, how can I be a stand for that more in this world? So thank you. And I've been thinking like about asking the Courage if you'd want to come out for, I don't know if the dates would align or whatever, but to be on my TV show, since that's what I do. I showcase inspiring people. And you're big on the list. Something to think about.
Sure. And what a great way of supporting contribution. And sure, I can come back to LA anytime I want to because the Olympic spot is there. So that sounds great.
Say my day thing. Okay, bye.
Perfect. Great. Other thoughts or comments? Elaine, you look like you're busy writing. Is this thought-provoking writing?
Yeah, I was just thinking about what I'm going to do next here.
What does that mean?
Well, it's thought provoking. And so I have the gratitude, the thank you notes, the gratitude notes, and what I'm going to do with the rest of the circle and the line people about collaboration and contribution. So I'm just kind of pondering that.
Oh, great. I just didn't know what you meant by doing it next year. I didn't know what that meant, but that's
No, I'm doing it next. Just what to do next here. What to do next now. Not next year. I'm not waiting till next year.
The ask homework assignment is next 7 days to do your gratitude thing. Yeah. Cool. Amani, how are you doing?
I'm just thinking about how I'm going to pull off the gratitude in 7 days, thinking of some creative ways, and then how to turn people, maybe a few from the ones that are floaters into potentially circles. That's kind of my 2 thoughts.
Yeah, several people mentioned floaters that might, or like even putting people on the list that might be half good, half bad, that kind of thing. And it's much easier for me to say this to y'all instead of me working on my own list. But if they're taking up space in your head, they get on the list. Now, why are they taking up space in your head? That's your work to do. Right. And if someone's half good, half bad, and they're taking up space in your head, maybe you need to make a choice about what you're spending the space in your head doing. There was a person on yesterday's call, a circle person, when we did the activity at the chapter meeting, They were a circle person and they've become less and less of a circle person, but they actually have created a collaboration. So they have a whole new program that's launching in a month, but the person isn't a circle person anymore. And we were talking about that yesterday. That doesn't mean they're terrible, right? But they went from someone who was aspirational to someone they're now collaborating with. Isn't that great? That's not like, you didn't screw up the activity. That seems amazing. And you created something new and it's launching next week. Like, seems great to me. Susan, how are you doing?
Honestly, I'm having fun thinking about this with one client in particular, doing this with her, because it's really clear to me that she's got some people on a crazy ass pedestal, and some people she's like, they're awful. And I'm like, let's use that on purpose. Let's use that to find out about you. Instead of like, let's just keep pointing fingers all over the place. It's not productive, period.
Interesting. Well, and Jacob, I'm curious for you, as we're kind of like winding things down, coming in at an odd time, but like hanging in there for the conversation. What are your thoughts about this? And then I will of course share the recording with everyone, but what are you noticing or feeling or thinking?
Well, I mean, half an hour ago, I was like fighting back tears over missing this, and I was just kind of shaken up. And now I'm just calming down and realizing, okay, this something really cool happened here and I missed it, but at the very least, I'll get to kind of listen in through the recording. And I don't really know, but I see that a lot of you are recognizing qualities in other people is what it sounds like is happening. And that's always exciting to see, because I mean, I'm writing notes here, even though I'm not 100% sure what you were talking about, but that's, yeah, I'm trying to make sense out of it, but I will.
Awesome. Well, and you'll get the recording shortly and we'll stay in touch. So if I can help with something else, let me know. That's cool. Well, y'all, I super appreciate this. I hope that this is worth your support for the chapter. Everything I try to do is to support the chapter because I'm jealous that I don't live near one. So I just crash them everywhere else. If there is something else I can do, you know how to schedule time with me. Whatever I can do to help, I'm happy to. And I recommend going through this process more often than you might even think. I think, Susan, you were saying that you have like a pretty big decision coming up. Like, I wouldn't count this as going through it, right? Like, before you make that decision, do this again and really have your own conversation with yourself. And I think it provides clarity. That doesn't mean that you can't still make a bad decision, but you'll just be clear as to why you're making a bad decision, right? I'm not a fortune teller, and God knows I've made a lot of expensive bad decisions, but I turned out.
I would never put that on you. Oh my God, no.
I turned out okay, even though I've spent a lot of money trying to be something that I don't know why I was trying to do that. But if I can help in any other way, please let me know. I'm going to stop the recording